Believe it or not, it's been 20 years since Cadet Kelly aired on Disney Channel.
Really confused by how that happened, but I guess I'm not because I was 16, so time goes by fast and slow. It's a real weird thing, time, like you could probably put a meme of this, but time is just like, it escapes me. I thought of Cadet Kelly as being like one thing that I did and that it wasn't going to make any kind of like real splash because there were just so many DComs every month that were coming out. And now when we look back and it's got this like legacy and whatnot, it's quite nice to know that it affected that many people.
So how was the audition process for you? Were you the first to sign on, or did Hilary before you?
I think Hilary was already signed on, but they knew that they wanted to package this. I would imagine the way that Disney Channel works is that it holds its scripts in development for at least a year. And they probably were working with the producers who had ties to Private Benjamin, which was a 80s hit cult classic movie with, I believe, Goldie Hawn. And so Hilary Duff was very much the Goldie Hawn, fun, pretty glamorous, but also funny thing happening with Lizzie McGuire. And it really was a one-for-one in casting her. And it made a lot of sense. Now, for me, I was, Ren, and Ren on Even Stevens was pretty type A and kind of the strict older sister. So I think it wasn't quite the one-for-one to be like almost the villain of the story. But I kind of tried to approach it from the get-go as like, okay, I don't feel comfortable playing the villain. Like, how do I actually inject this character with some like, three-dimensionality and some humanity so that by the end, it really paid off when they became friends and it wasn't just kind of like shrug your shoulders like,
And saw your Cadet Kelly clip, and I heard that you actually talked to the director about making Jennifer a nicer character and not as mean. So what did the first draft look like, and were there any changes to the second?
I want to say that there may have been a few changes that maybe I suggested some ways of not being so evil, but none that come to mind. I just remember kind of doing the read-throughs once we got to Canada with like Hilary sitting there and then feeling really bad because Hilary and I would be able to hang out and have coffee and lunch. And I was like, she's such a sweet girl. Like, how am I going to approach this? But honestly, it was really wonderful to grow that character in the time that we were doing the rehearsals in Canada. And then we were also in boot camp, learning how to hold our rifles. And something that people might not know is there was quite a bit more of the gun throwing. And we had a lot more drills and exercises that we filmed. And they took a lot of it out because I think it just either maybe Disney had a thing about showing rifles, or it just wasn't tight enough. Like maybe it just didn't get filmed in a way that looked like it would impress the kids. So I don't know exactly why they cut out the extra rifle pieces, but we definitely had more of that we had rehearsed in boot camp, so to speak.
So were there any other deleted scenes that didn't make the cut?
Not that I can think of.
No.
I think maybe Hilary had a couple ones with her girlfriend, and those might have been cut for time. But, sometimes that just happens because the pace of these original movies had to and still has to have a certain kind of mark that it hits at a certain point in time. It's a little formulaic in that way because the kids that are watching its attention span is only so much. So what now has become this really like production value heavy movie like a Descendants or Zombies franchise is definitely replaced the simplicity of a Cadet Kelly. And at the time, Cadet Kelly was a big movie because we had to shoot it on location and it was a world of the military that Disney really had never like tackled. So it was, and to this day, still very unique, other than Tiger Cruise, which was very different.
So what was your first meeting with Hilary like?
My goodness, yeah, she started a season after us. But really what's strange is the way that the content was rolled out. Like, yes, Even Stevens was on, but it wasn't until we had a block of really great content that Disney started really that we realized we had fans. So like by the time we had fans, they were already fans of Lizzie McGuire, like very quickly after. So we were chicken before the egg, but at the same time, it was very much all the same moment in time of that. And so I don't exactly recall meeting her for the first time. I do remember in general, she was always with Troy, who was her bodyguard and her acting coach. And he was such a sweet guy and super protective, and as he should be, you know, like as a parent now, I realize that if my child was in the business, I would want them to have, you know, safe adults around them and in a circle if I could. And so that was really great. And of course, her mom, who was so amazing and such a hands-on manager of her. And then her sister too. I met her sister for the first time, and she was really great because she was right around my age too. And now Haley lives in Austin, and so I've seen her a couple times since we've both lived here, and it's really great to reconnect in that way.
Have you reconnected with any other cast members?
Let's see. I think I ran into Sean Ashmore a few times in my 20s, and he was always busy working. He dated Michelle Trachtenberg for a long time, and so I think that's when our roads crossed. And he's always just been such a professional and hard worker, and obviously I think he's a parent now, so everyone has just grown up, and it's really fun to see what we were.
I also watched your boot camp video. Do you remember any skills from that original boot camp back in the day?
Yeah. I think some of the the thing was is that I wanted to learn how to scream, but what we realized with me and the director was that my character didn't need to scream. Jennifer Stone had her assistant, or her, oh my gosh, that is not the correct military jargon. And since I'm married to a Marine, I'd probably get hazed for that. So he can laugh sometimes. I think we watched it together, and he was like, okay, all right, I see what you guys were trying to do. Like, he was pretty open-minded about it. But when my husband and I will watch other military dramas or like JAG or something, he's like, they're not supposed to have sideburns, and that's not the way you would say that. But he was very open-minded when it came to the ROTC little movie that I did, right? But Amy Garcia was my second in command in the movie. So she was the one that screamed. And so when I was learning how to be very sort of scary for the character, where Jennifer Stone got her strength was in not screaming, because she could get people to execute whatever she wanted to be done to them. And so there's a few times in the movie that I scream, but if you notice, like, what I chose at a young age was to make her not have to move.
I have to ask about One Girl Revolution. Did you know while filming that it was going to be such an iconic scene?
Honestly, not at all. Like I said, I thought that DCOM was just going to be one of many, and the fact that it was the highest rated DCOM at, like, even up till like Cheetah Girls and High School Musical, it was so highly rated and viewed for such a long time that I was shocked, you know. But I think the reason why it worked so well is because they did the synergy of, you know, Sean, me, Hilary, and even Gary Cole to some degree, who plays the father on Kim Possible.
Yes.
So there was just like there was a synergy there with that movie that I think really spoke volumes to the world of Disney. And it was definitely a moment. But the dance was something that we had to take time away from our boot camp training to rehearse. And it was something that Hilary and I had to work with an actual choreographer with. She was very excellent and very sweet. So, like, it was so nice to not have our drill sergeant have to be like rough on us when we were like being able to enjoy the dance rehearsals. It was like a totally different side of our brains. And I was even like, at one point my back started hurting, and production had to give me a massage because the boots that we had to train in were real combat boots that had like, I think like really bad support, and we would be standing still and learning how to really to just at least fake it and to look like we knew what we were doing, you know? And so, the moment that we learned about the part of the dance that we throw that ribbon baton, I was like, oh, this is for the kids. That's kind of, because I was 16, 17, and I was like, okay, so this is for the kids, and like, let's just have fun with it, you know? Like, let's honor the characters' celebration of doing something different in that moment. So as an actor, you kind of just have to play it for keeps, you know? And so even at 16, it was like, let's have fun. And now we look back and people are like, oh my gosh, this is so nuts.
Did you take anything from the set?
Oh yeah, I took my nameplate. I have where it says Stone on it. I was gifted a Paddington bear in like a military coat, and it says Cadet Kelly, and that was like our production gift, and I have it in my child's playroom now. So it's really sweet to have that token, and my mom of course saved it for many, many years, and then when she moved, I took it for my kids.
I know both you and Andrea Lewis, who played Carla, made TikToks about Jennifer Stone and Cadet Kelly maybe having some LGBTQ undertones or people seeing it in that light. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that because the movie came out at a time for people who were coming of age, if it resonated with them, and this is something that Hilary recently said too, because she's been promoting How I Met Your Father, and she mentioned it like, wow, I didn't know, but wow, that's so great that it could resonate with people and help them in that time of their lives. And so because it happened, there's this concept of like the queering of seeing the two girls be that close. And so it's one interpretation of the movie because, you know, a movie is a piece of art. It can be interpreted many ways. But I think that it's really wonderful that the legacy is so vast that it can affect people who watched it in one regard, people who were identifying it in a different regard. And like, that's special. Like, that is to be celebrated for sure, that it helped a lot of kids in general feel like they were seen in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, Andrea's been really great. Like, I'm so excited. I'm hoping that Andrea, I think she's about to give me a recipe for my cookbook, because I was trying to get Andrea on my Christy's Kitchen Throwback YouTube show for a while, and I haven't seen her since Cadet Kelly, but we've reconnected through TikTok and Instagram, and it's amazing how connected you can become with your past just by using social media. I mean, it's possible that Jennifer Stone does come out at some point. I don't see why not. I think that could be one option, that she's I do think she would be married. So whether that's two male, female, that's for the writers to decide. And I think that, she'd be married because I think she really likes structure. And I think that that would be something that would be very healthy for her. And I think that she would have a marriage. And I think that at some point or another, she would have she would remember the trauma of dealing with Kelly, and somebody, maybe a recruit or something, might jog that memory for her, and she would have to kind of either be triggered by that and kind of have to get over that. But I think that it would be really interesting to see where she's at now, having had the experience of, having like somebody stir her life up so much. Like, what happened after that, right? Like, that would be very interesting to see where Jennifer is now. I would be intrigued by it.
And your cookbook is based on your YouTube show, Christy's Kitchen Throwback. Will any other stars be featured in this cookbook, and what recipes can we expect?
Oh, absolutely. The first question that I get from everyone about the cookbook so far is there going to be a naco recipe? Naco was the first episode that I did with Will Friedle on my Christy's Kitchen Throwback format on my YouTube channel. And of course, the naco is going to be there. It'll probably be front and center, and not on the cover, because the cover's like very pink, but it's going to be a blast. It's going to be super colorful and throwbacky. It's going to be the kind of cookbook that you can gift to your friends, or you can have like in your kitchen or on your, bookshelf and pick it up and enjoy, because there's fun facts about, me reconnecting with my celebrity guest friends that I haven't seen in decades, like Lelaine, and just enjoying the moment that was that show. Like, I would love for the throwback show to come back. But COVID is a little hard to gauge when it comes to, hey, can I get like 6 people in this, couple days that I'm in California?
You have not one but 2 podcasts coming up, the first of which being I Hear Voices with your former Kim Possible co-star, Will. What can you tell us about it?
So Will Friedle and I have been touching base with one another because we've been doing Comic-Cons. And for a while, we were just like, hey, are we going to do like a reboot, or like what's happening? And then the live action thing came up, and then COVID happened. And so we really didn't see each other for a good, I want to say like year and change. And I got busy with my girls and I moved to Austin. So I haven't been really hanging with Will Friedle for a while. And then he got off social media and I wasn't really able to chat with him anymore. And so finally he called me and my husband And he was like, hey guys, like, I want to do something with animation. I want to do a podcast. Like, let's see what we can do. And my husband, being a very like proactive producer with the Marine background, is like, let's execute this. And within like 2 weeks, we were sitting in downtown LA in a completely like built out set. And it's like, we're now gonna do this. Like, we've got Eric Bauza, who's like the new Mel Blanc. He does like the voice of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Woody the Woodpecker. And he does like Space Jam, Porky the Pig, like Elmer Fudd, you name it. He does all of those characters. We have him as our first guest. We have E.G. Daly, who's Tommy Pickles, and she's Buttercup. She's Buttercup? I believe she's Buttercup. She's like one of those people that's like in so many things. And there's just so many unsung heroes in the voiceover animation world that it felt very fitting for me and Will to be these hosts, because Will is a nerd, and he'll be the first to tell you that he truly is into so many things that are nerd culture. And when I say nerd, I don't say it like, oh, that's a bad thing, because nerd culture is so mainstream now that it's almost like you want to be a nerd. You know, you want to have a fandom that you can be a part of. And he's, of course, got many fandoms. He's also not just Ron Stoppel, but he's the voice of Batman from Batman and Beyond. So he's obviously iconic, but us coming together and having a good time is why people want to listen to the podcast, because he really razzes me and I get to razz him too.